Okay. So how are you all? I feel like all are staying safe. The cases, corona cases are increasing. So uh, you have to, I know you may have to go out, but take all precautions and stay safe. Okay. So today we will start our classes in ecology. So last class we have already discussed about population ecology, isn't it? So I know there are some new students have joined, like they wanted a demo class or something. So already our classes were going on, and last class we have discussed about population ecology. So I'll just brief it, then we'll go to today's class, which is community ecology. Okay. So population ecology, in that class last time we have discussed, like, see, if you are considering yourself as an individual, you can see around you there is a group of individuals like in the same species. So what species? Like human species, isn't it? So we can see around, you can see around you there is a human population. Why it is called a population? Because these individuals can interbreed among themselves. So the group of individuals staying in a particular place which can interbreed among themselves. So that group, they are of the same species, so they can interbreed. So these people or this group is known as population. So individual is over, then next comes the population, and when different populations are living in a particular place, okay, that is known as community. So a group of species living in a particular area that can interact with each other. In population, what I have told, interbreed. Here I am saying interact with each other. They can interact directly or indirectly with each other, and that is known as community. Why I am telling indirect relationship? See, if you are considering a what you say community, in that community you can see around you, you as a human population will be there, then cats will be there, dogs will be there, plants will be there. All these things are interconnected through food chain or food web, isn't it? So if you are considering a very simple community, like where grasses are there, small plants are there, then deer or zebra, herbivores are there, then in the next stage you can see the carnivores, isn't it? So if you consider there, they grass will be eaten by deer, isn't it? So that is a direct relationship. These two are having a direct relationship, but deers are in turn eaten by lions or tiger, whatever it is, that carnivores. So if you consider the relationship between grass and lion, you can see that they are indirectly connected. So the species, a different species in a community, they are interacting with each other in a direct manner or an indirect manner. So ultimately this community is composed of the biotic component of the ecosystem, that is community. Okay, this community includes primary producers, consumers, and decomposers. Primary producers, we all know that plants are primary producers, and then there comes the consumers, then there comes the decomposers that decomposes the dead and decaying matter, isn't it? So these, as I told you, the organisms in the community, they interact with each other through food chain or food web, isn't it? So what is community ecology? In population ecology, we have told that the population ecology is a study of interaction of the individuals in a population. ഒരു populationലെ individuals, if they are interacting, how they are interacting with each other, that is dealt in population ecology. And again, how they are interacting with the environment. Same here, the community, the individuals or the different populations or different species in a community, how they are interacting with each other and how they are interacting with the surrounding environment. That study is known as community ecology. So when we say about a community, it is having certain attributes or certain characteristics or certain structure. Last time in population ecology, what we have discussed, there are certain characteristics like natality, mortality, density, isn't it? Then we discussed so many growth patterns, growth curves, all these things. We have R and K selection. All these are the population characteristics or attributes. Okay, so likewise in the case of community also, it is having a definite structure. What is the structure? If you consider yourself in a community, what is the structure? You will be surrounded by different communities like dogs, cat, all those things are there, isn't it? So all these how many species are there around you? Okay, how many species are there around you? And then in each species or in each population, how many individuals are there? That shows the relative abundance. What is abundance? Abundance means number, isn't it? So how many species are there and what species are there? I told human, cat, dog, so that are the species names. Okay, so that much species are there, the number and their relative abundance in each species, how many are there. So that and all is dealt in community structure and community ecology. So community structure changes with respect to the interactions between the different species, isn't it? So always these species are interacting with each other, direct or indirect manner. So sometimes they will predate on others, sometimes they will compete for many things, for food or water or whatever it is, space and all. So that causes changes in the community always. So this is happening in a dynamic manner, this is happening in a continuous manner. And again, as I told you, this is interacting, community is interacting with the external environment or the conditions surrounding it. So with that surrounding changes in the surrounding environment or physical environment or the abiotic factors, this community structure is always changing. So we can say that the community is very dynamic and it always changes. Okay, so communities can be very large, as you can say in the case of a tropical forest, that is a very huge, big community, isn't it? Then we can see, if you consider a pond as a community, it's a very small community. So in this community, as I told you, there are certain characteristics what we are going to deal in coming sections, that is species composition, how many species are there, and then in each species how many individuals are there, all these, that comes in species diversity, how many different species in a particular community. So species composition and diversity we will deal with. Then species interactions, how they are interacting, the interaction can be in a positive manner or in a negative manner. Okay, so they can, how they are going to interact, that will also we will study. Then ecological niche, ecological niche is nothing but the space that occupy, where a particular species is occupying as its own area, as my area where I am going to live. ഓരോ particular species-നും അവർ താമസിക്കുന്ന ഒരു നിഷ് ഉണ്ടാവും, അതിലാണ് അവർ യൂഷ്വലി ഇന്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്ത് മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നത്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് നോൺ ആസ് എക്കോളജിക്കൽ നിഷ്. Then we will discuss ecological succession. Ecological succession is nothing but how a community is getting established in a particular place. ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഉണ്ടായി എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ് ആയി വരുന്നത്, that is dealt in ecological succession. And then you definitely will see the biodiversity and how biodiversity conservation is being done. That and all will be dealt in this chapters coming ecology, community ecology topics. Okay, so when you say about a community, we have to there are different species, as I told you, and some species are dominant over the other species. How I am saying, or why I am saying they are dominant, they will be in more abundance, that is their number will be relatively very high. So dominant species are more abundant and they are highly successful species in a particular habitat. Our particular habitat, they are the successful species and their number is quite large, and when they are in large numbers they can create high impact on the ecosystem. Okay, So sometimes what happens with the dominant community, with the dominant species name, the community will be known. അതായത് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയുടെ പേര് തന്നെ ആ ഡോമിനന്റ് സ്പീഷീസിനെ വെച്ചിട്ടായിരിക്കും. ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ, in the case of California, there is a forest which is called redwood forest. So what will be the dominant species over there? Redwoods. And you have definitely heard about mangrove swamps, isn't it? What is a mangrove swamp? You can see mangrove is the biodiversity hub, you can say. That is, it's having lot of rare species, isn't it? Highly rare ആയിട്ടുള്ള കുറേ species ഉണ്ടാവും mangroves. They are very rich in biodiversity, but that swamp is known in the name of mangrove swamp. Why? Mangrove is the dominant species. Same in the case of coral reef also. In that reef area, so many individuals are seen associated, different species are seen associated. Kore fishes and other underwater organisms are there, but still it is known as coral reef. Why it is known as coral reef? The dominant species are corals. So this is with dominant species. And there is another term which is known as keystone species. What is a keystone species? It is a species if you remove that from a particular community. Okay, a species ne a community ne remove cheyidal, it will have a drastic change on the community, and sometimes the entire community will crash. The entire community will crash. So it may not be in large abundance. Okay, number വളരെ കൂടുതലാവണമെന്നില്ല, number കുറച്ചേ ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ, but still they have high impact on the community. So usually in the case of higher trophic level organisms, like എവിടെയാണ് tertiary consumers ഒക്കെ വരുന്നത്, അതായത് carnivores, higher trophic levels usually trophic levels പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ we all know that the individuals in the higher trophic levels will be tertiary consumers, that is like lion or tiger or something like that. Okay, so in that level, if you are removing tiger from a population or some individuals from a population, even though they are in less number, if you remove that, it can have high impact. Okay, but here we have to you may be having one question like, see, it's in the case of a rainforest, tropical rainforest and all, in tertiary consumers or higher trophic levels, you can see different carnivores, isn't it? Lions will be there, tiger will be there, where so many carnivores will be there. So once you are removing tiger from that habitat, it may not have that impact because other carnivores are there. They will check on the number of herbivores, they will check on the number of herbivores down to them. അപ്പോൾ അവര് മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യും ആ ബാലൻസ്. സോ ഇൻ ദാറ്റ് പ്ലേസ് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് നോട്ട് എ keystone species. Where it can be a keystone species, where tiger can be a keystone species, only in the higher trophic level, the only carnivore which is present is tiger. Tiger ആണ് ഒരു particular ഏരിയയിൽ, tiger ആണ് higher trophic level ഉള്ള ഓർഗാനിസം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഹയർ ട്രോഫിക് ലെവലിലുള്ള സ്പീഷീസ് എങ്കിൽ ടൈഗറിനെ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് റിമൂവ് ചെയ്താൽ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ഹാവ് എ ഹൈ ഇമ്പാക്ട് ഓൺ ദി ecosystem. So keystone species is related to, we always say it's related to particular habitat or particular area. ആ ഏരിയയിൽ ഏതാണ് ഏറ്റവും എഫിഷ്യന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളത്, ആ ഓർഗാനിസം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഹയർ ട്രോഫിക് ലെവലിലുള്ളത്, ദാറ്റ് വിൽ ബി കൺസിഡർഡ് ആസ് ദി keystone species. And for example, a common example cited and usually we can see in question paper is sea otter. Sea otter is in North Pacific Ocean. There is a kelp forest. What are kelps? Kelps are like some water plants, isn't it? So they are the primary producers in that North Pacific Ocean. North Pacific Ocean le primary producers are kelps. They have a huge vast area of kelp forest in North Pacific Ocean. So these kelps are grazed by sea urchins. What are sea urchins? You might have studied in echinodermata, isn't it? Sea urchins are there. So it's a kind of echinoderm. They graze on kelps. Okay. Then next level, sea urchins are in turn eaten by what? Sea otter. Sea otter is a mammal. Okay. So this sea otter is, the number of sea otter is basically maintaining the sea urchins number also. Likewise, the kelps are kept stable. The entire area stability is in the hands of, you can say, sea otter. So what happened later on when killer whales are introduced to that particular area, when killer whales happen to enter to that particular area and they survived over there, killing or eating sea otters. So in that case, what happened? Sea otter number has highly reduced. When sea otter number is reduced, they cannot eat on sea urchins. So sea urchin number is increased. When sea urchins number is increased, what happened? The kelps are overgrazed. So kelps are overgrazed, and then the entire community, that community itself got destroyed. Because what is destroyed over there ultimately? The primary producers. When primary producers are not at all there, then in no time the herbivores or whatever it is, the higher levels, they get destroyed. So because of that, sea otter is known as the uh, keystone species in that particular area. Same in the case of African savannas. Savanna, what are savannas? We have heard about grasslands. Africa, it's termed as savannas. In North America, somewhere it's pampas, isn't it? So, African elephants, what they are actually doing is that they will eat on some shrubs or trees ഒക്കെ ട്രീസ് ആയിട്ടല്ല ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. They will be like growing, no? So that growing stage, when it is in the level of shrubs, ആ ലെവലിലായിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ this African elephants usually eats on or grazes on these shrubs. So what happens when shrubs, African elephants, when they are getting removed from savannas, what will happen? These shrubs will grow and grow and grow more, then finally it will get converted into a forest. So the grassland will be entirely converted into a new ecosystem, which is known as forest. So that kind of drastic changes this keystone species can produce. So one is dominant species and one is keystone species. Usually while next classes and all, we will discuss about more different types of species like indicator species, flagship species, all these are there. So questions usually comes with definitions. What are like match the following thing. Okay, dominant species, keystone, flagship, indicator and all, they will give in one side and the other side their definitions. So that question has come, so that we will discuss in the next class. So this is basically dominant and keystone species. I hope you understood, isn't it? So now we will start with ecological succession. So what is ecological succession? Ecological succession is like how a community is getting formed or how a community is getting established in a particular place. That is known as ecological succession. So the communities are very dynamic and they are continuously undergoing changes in structure and function, as I told you, according to the environmental conditions prevailing over there. And these changes are directional. You can say it is directional, sequential. Sequential, why I am saying sequential? From the name itself we can say ecological succession. Successively it is happening in a sequential manner, one after the other it is happening here. So, and these are parallel to the changes in the environment. Like if when environment is having certain changes, like a flood happens or drought happens, the same time parallelly to this we can see some changes in the community structure in that place, isn't it? So these stages are, so according to that changes, it will be continuously changing, and finally it reaches an equilibrium with the surrounding environment. So once it reaches that equilibrium point or stable point, the community there is termed as Climax Community. So the term is coined by Clemens, and Climax Community, that is, it became equilibrium with the surrounding environment. So Climax Community marks the end of the succession. Succession the end when they are in equilibrium with the stable with the surrounding environment. That point is known as climax community. Okay, so climax community, when it has reached, until unless that physical environment is changing, this community will be remaining there very much stable. Okay, പിന്നെ ഇനി അതിൽ ചേഞ്ചസ് വരണമെങ്കിൽ സറൗണ്ടിങ് എൻവയോൺമെന്റിന്റെ ചേഞ്ചസ് എന്തെങ്കിലും ചേഞ്ചസ് വരണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി അവിടെ വളരെ സ്റ്റേബിൾ ആയിട്ട് അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ നിൽക്കും. സോ ദിസ് ഇസ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി. സോ എൻഡ് ഇസ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ് community. So what is starting? Starting is pioneer community. So what is pioneer community or pioneer stage? That is the initial stage of succession. Succession the starting stage ആണ് pioneer community, and climax community is the last stage. So starting and last, if you are saying, in between definitely some temporary stages are there, isn't it? So that stages are known as CSIR, or the communities in that stage is known as CSIR stages. So temporary communities are that is getting established in between the pioneer and climax community is termed as what? CSIR or CSIR stages. So this much I hope it is very clear. Climax community is the end, pioneer is the starting. Okay, so ecological succession, where in which habitat or where the ecological succession is starting, എവിടെയാണ് ecological succession start ചെയ്യുന്നത്? According to that, we have classified the succession into two. What is that? Hydrarch and xerarch. Name you remember. Hydra means something related to water, that you can remember. So hydrarch is when the pioneer community or the succession starts in aquatic environment, whether it is in pond or in lake or whatever it is, if it is starting in an aquatic environment, it is known as hydrarch. Okay, if it is starting in a dry area, in a dry land area, it is known as xerarch. Understood? So hydrarch and xerarch. So we have to this question has come, I have seen somewhere in question paper, like the different order of individuals or order of succession in hydrarch. That is, initially in aquatic environment, the first individual or the first pioneer community that is getting established will be phytoplanktons. So phytoplanktons, why they are termed as, they are planktons and they can produce themselves food. So they are phytoplanktons. Okay, so these phytoplanktons, they will be first established as a pioneer community. Then what will happen? After some time, these phytoplanktons die and their debris along with the silt and all, it will go into the depth of the water. So it will form layer over layer. Okay, inside the water pond area, you can imagine. Then what happens? When when that area is rich with inorganic nutrients or some organic debris and all, slowly the plants will come to exist. So the second stage will be submerged plants. So the plants underwater, small submerged plants will form. Then later on, these plants can also die, isn't it? They will also die and accumulate and some decomposition is happening. But slowly what is happening there? The pond is getting shallower and shallower. Adinte depth koranju variyana. So next stage is submerged free floating plants. So the plants will come out. So the leaves or some other parts of the plants will be freely floating on the surface of the water. So third stage is submerged free floating plants. Then next stage is reed swamp stage. Reed swamp stage, what is happening is that the plants are normally termed as amphibians. Like they can even grow in that silt or that wet conditions, wet soil, and at the same time in the dry soil also. So that is a reed swamp stage. So slowly, because of the decrease in depth, the plants are getting converted into higher levels. Their complexity is slowly increasing. And then it comes the marshmallow stage. In the marshmallow stage also, the plants are like they can survive in a dry soil. So when water is getting dried up also, these plants can survive. So in the marsh meadow stage, what happens? The dry soil will be there when water is getting dried up in the hot conditions. So these marsh meadow plants can survive there. So slowly this dried area marsh meadow plants will give rise to dry soil, other plants will come, and slowly it can convert into a forest. So this is the order for hierarchy. Okay, so this order you have to remember in questions they have asked. So ecological succession according to habitat we have made into two, hierarchy and hierarchy. I think this is very clear to you. Next one is primary, secondary and cyclic. This is also according to the nature of habitat. Why it is termed as primary? In a particular area, for the first time a succession is happening. For the first time, then it is known as primary. Okay. Secondary already there was a succession, ecological succession happening, and then due to some flood or drought or fire, whatever it is, it got destroyed. So again they are restarting. That is secondary. And there is cyclic also. I'll come to that later. So primary, this is totally new. For the first time a succession is going to happen in a particular area. So where you can see that you have to note a very important point: there is no soil in primary succession. Okay, so where it is usually happening? In the volcanic area, if you see after a volcanic eruption, some lava will come out, and this lava will get settled, isn't it? So in that lava, for the first time it will be like too hot, and afterwards it will dry up, and then that area for the first time community is going to start. So that is known as primary succession. Okay, so again in the case of glacial area in Alaska and all, what happened? Slowly the glaciers used to melt. It happened in the lower terrains of Alaska. So what happened when that glaciers are removed or melt? The underlying rock is exposed. So it's a rocky area. So most of the communities cannot survive there. So the primary succession or primary species were microbes, lichens and mosses. Okay, all these individuals like microbes, lichens and mosses, they are the primary succession species in that particular area. So what happened there? They slowly converted that rocky material into soil. Okay, organic, inorganic, nutrient rich soil was prepared by these microorganisms, but it takes lot of time. So primary succession happens with lot of time gap. So primary succession continues very slowly. So that is what happened there in the case of primary succession. Secondary succession, where it is happening, you can take the example of our Kerala floods. So in near the river and all, there were lot of communities were already established, isn't it? So when flood happened, what you can see, the entire community was wiped off, but there was a community and there is soil, fertile soil over there, isn't it? So later on, when that flood effect is gone, slowly again there it started resuccession. Slowly the plants get used to establish themselves. So this is known as secondary succession. So secondary succession is little bit faster because already the soil is there, already the conditions, nutrient rich soil is there. So primary producers can easily establish over there. So this secondary succession is quite fast. Primary succession takes lot of time until the soil is formed. Okay. Third one is cyclic succession. What is cyclic succession? Succession has already started. Different species are getting established one after the other. But before it reaches the climax community, എത്തുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ they will get destroyed due to some factors. അപ്പോൾ അവർ ഡിസ്ട്രോയിഡ് ആയിപ്പോൾ Climax community has not reached. So again, re-establishing starts. So this process is cyclic. Our community, Climax community le etti or stability attain cheyyunnadinu munpu thanne avaru what you say, they are getting destroyed and again re-establishing. So that process is known as cyclic succession. So primary, secondary and cyclic. This primary and secondary is very important. You will get questions from this area. Okay, it's very simple also. So this is a primary succession picture. You can see it's a bare area, then slowly you can see the lichens or mosses or whatever it is, they are habiting there. They'll make the soil nutrient rich. Then slowly smaller plants and bigger plants are going to get established and finally a forest. So it takes lot of time, primary succession. So again, you can classify ecological succession into 4 different types like autogenic, allogenic, autotrophic and heterotrophic. From the name itself, see in science or whatever it is, in that term itself you have lot of answers hidden. Okay, autogenic, auto means self, genic means they are generating, self-generating succession. Who is there in a succession, ecological succession? The biota. The main component is biotic factor. So that is species, different species. So self-generated autogenic succession, where you can see in a succession, you just imagine there are big smaller trees were there earlier, then they have grown to become larger or big trees. Okay, big trees, what will happen there? They will produce a lot of shade. Plants, if they have light requirement, so light will not penetrate that area, so that plants will get destroyed. So this is autogenic. The species in that community itself is creating some changes in that community. Avadeyulla big plants thanneyana, big trees thanneyana avade oru problem create cheyidittu kore plants ne eliminate cheyidu, അങ്ങനെ ആ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയുടെ സ്ട്രക്ചറിൽ ഒരു ചേഞ്ചസ് വരുത്തിയത്. So that is called autogenic. So allogenic, what it will be? Here it is biotic, then there it will be abiotic. So allogenic, that is externally generated succession. Externally generated due to some abiotic factor, like as I told, flood, storm, fire, any of this abiotic factor, is that factor is creating any changes in the succession, then it is known as allogenic succession. So that is clear, allogenic and autogenic succession. Now autotrophic and heterotrophic, you are very clear. What is autotrophs? Primary producers or the plants, isn't it? So autotrophic means in the initial stages or in the pioneer stages, if plants are more, it is called autotrophic. So heterotrophic means other than plants, they can be animals or bacteria or fungi, whatever it is. Okay, that is heterotrophic. So autotrophic, plants are more in initial pioneer stages. Heterotrophic, the other organisms or other animals, or you can say the bacteria, fungi, whatever it is. Where this heterotrophic success, autotrophic we can very well say plants, usually the initial stages plants will be there. But heterotrophic, where it can happen? In the case of sewage. Sewage treatment, usually in a sewage place, what is happening there? Directly plants cannot survive over there. It's so toxic, it's so that kind of atmosphere will be there. So normally what happens, some bacteria or some fungi, all these things are colonizing over there. Some microbes are colonizing over there, and they are making the sewage more suitable for other organisms or other plants to survive. So that sewage succession, sewage areas, that we can see heterotrophic succession. So are you clear with this point? Autogenic, allogenic, autotrophic and heterotrophic. From the name itself, you just think and name itself, you will get the answer or definition. Okay, so now one more succession is there, progressive and retrogressive. Progressive, what is progressive? It is progressively increasing. Progressive means in the initial stages or in the pioneer stages, the community what their existing will be very simple. Appo simple community in a simple species in the community will be going to a complex form that is known as progressive. So in the initial pioneer stages, normally these lichens or whatever it is, their biomass will be very less, isn't it? കുറച്ച് ബയോമാസ് ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ. If you weigh them, it will be very less, but that will ultimately become a forest. So forest biomass is huge. So what is progressive ecological succession? From simple to complex, or from lower biomass to higher biomass. During the succession process, this is happening, then it is called progressive succession. So normally the succession happens in a progressive way. അല്ലേ, നമ്മളെപ്പോഴും സക്സഷൻ പറയുമ്പോൾ ലൈക്കൻസിൽ നിന്ന് തുടങ്ങി ഫോറസ്റ്റ് ആവുന്നു, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഫൈറ്റോപ്ലാങ്ക്ടനിൽ നിന്ന് തുടങ്ങി അതൊരു ഫോറസ്റ്റ് ആവുന്നു, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നല്ലൊരു പോണ്ടിലുള്ള ഒരു സിസ്റ്റം എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ്ഡ് ആവുന്നു എന്നാണ് യൂഷ്വലി നമ്മൾ പറയാറ്. സോ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഓൾവേസ് പ്രോഗ്രസീവ്. Then there is another succession which is known as retrogressive. അപ്പൊ നേരെ ഓപ്പോസിറ്റ് പറയാം. What is opposite to this? From complex to simple forms are forming. Okay. So from complex to simple form. Why it is happening and where it is happening? Sometimes the forest is getting converted into grassland. Okay. Where it can be actually, see, if you understand a particular example, that case can very well explain this retrogressive succession. Okay. So in retrogressive succession, where it has happened, you can see the glacier in Alaska. As I told you, in the lower terrains, what happened? The glaciers has already melt, and then there slowly the succession started with lichens, and then lichens came, mosses came, and all these things were happening smaller plants. Like that, the succession happened. Okay, and then the established climax community was spruce forest. So spruce nulla tree, spruce tree യുടെ forest ആയിരുന്നു അവിടെ climax community ആയിട്ട് established ആയത്. Okay, so later on, see, anybody, if they are unmute, please mute yourself. Okay, thank you. So in the case of retrogressive succession, in Alaska, what happened? As I told you, spruce trees avarayirunnu climax community ആയിട്ട് establish ചെയ്തത്. But later on, what happened? Sphagnum mosses. Have you heard of sphagnum mosses? നമ്മളിപ്പോ വീട്ടിലൊക്കെ ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് നോർമലി ഓൺ ബ്രിക്സ്, നമ്മൾ വീട്ടിൽ കാണുന്ന ബ്രിക്സിലൊക്കെ സം മോസസ് ആർ ദേർ അല്ലെ, ഗ്രീൻ കളറിൽ നമ്മൾ പറയും പൂപ്പൽ എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ് ഇത്തിരി നല്ല thick mat pole form ചെയ്യും. That is a species of sphagnum mosses. So these kind of mosses are there. What is the speciality of sphagnum mosses? These mosses are having high water retention. അപ്പോൾ സ്വാഗ്നം മോസസിന്റെ സ്പോർസ്, അതിന്റെ സീഡ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്പോർസ് എന്നല്ലേ നമ്മൾ ജനറലി പറയാം. ദി സ്പോർസ് ഹാവ് come to this particular place. Alaska spruce dominated or spruce dominated area forest lake vannu. Then what happened? This sphagnum mosses got established and they started retaining more water in that particular area. Kore water ഒരു particular area il vannu kayinal, especially for spruce trees, they cannot survive over there. So the entire spruce trees got eliminated or get decayed, damaged and removed. So in that case, the trees have gone, and then it slowly converted into a smaller succession stages. You cannot say it's a grassland, but the higher trees are not existing there. So that kind of succession from the trees, like from the higher complex successive stages, if it is becoming more simpler form, then it is known as retrogressive. Understood? So progressive and retrogressive. Progressive, simple to complex, and retrogressive, complex to simple. You just think about this example, then you will understand what is retrogressive succession. Okay. So shall we move on to the next? Okay, mechanism of succession. While I was discussing all these things, already I have told what is happening and what is the mechanism of succession. You should remember some terms for this. This is very important because in questions they will give this succession stages, mechanism stages, and they'll sometimes change the places. So what comes after what, that you have to remember. Okay. So mechanism of succession, as I told you, there is a bare area, nudation. Nude means what? Nothing is there, bare. So that is nude. So nudation means bare area without any form of life. So that is the first stage, nudation. So in that nude area or bare area, some spores or some seeds of plants or fungus or whatever it is, lichens or whatever it is getting migrated or invaded to that bare area with the help of what? Air or water. Air or water കൊണ്ട് അവിടേക്ക് മൈഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് വരികയാണ്, ഇൻവേഡ് ചെയ്ത് വരികയാണ് കുറച്ച് സ്പോർസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സീഡ്സ്. Then they started establishing over there. So establishing means first they have to get adapted to that environment, isn't it? So they will get slowly adapted to the environment and they start sexually reproducing, or they start producing the next generation. So you can say that plant or that particular species is established over that. That is known as excess. What is excess? In a particular area, the spores or seeds, whatever is coming there, they are getting established as, and they are getting reproduced, adapted, and they are getting reproduced to the next generation. So that point is known as accession. So nudation, there was nothing, then migration happened, then they excess, that is adaptation and establishment with sexual reproduction happened. So they started in population ecology also, we told they started reproducing and reproducing, lot of individuals will be there, definitely they are getting aggregated. Aggregation happens due to high reproduction rate. So aggregation happened. So what is next? When whatever people or whatever it is, when there is an aggregation of organisms or species or individuals, what will happen there? Definitely there will be competition for all these things, water, nutrients or space, whatever it is, they will have a competition. Then they will start competing, and as a result or as a reaction to competition, okay, competition reaction item, some will get eliminated and some will get stabilized. So competition happens and reaction, as a reaction to this competition, and then again the soil or whatever conditions are prevailing there, to the reaction, as a reaction to competition and these factors, some individuals or some species is getting adapted and suitable, they are found suitable and they stabilize as a climax community over there, and others which are unsuitable, they will get eliminated. So the establishment of the climax community and steady state, until unless that steady state or the environment is not changing, the climax community will not change. So these are the steps. It is very clear as a story. I think nudation, nothing is there. Then inversion migration happens. When inversion migration happens, they started getting adapted. So that is excesses, and slowly start reproducing. Excess, that is excess. And then when it is reproducing, what happens? Aggregation will happen. Then they will compete. As a result, some will get eliminated, and some will, as a reaction, some will get eliminated and some stabilizes over there. So this is the mechanism of succession. This you have to remember the stages, okay, order of the stages. Then climax community, now you all know it is the end of succession. It's a steady state, equilibrium state, and all these things. So there are to define or to identify or to interpret this climax community, some theories have been put forward. Okay, this part I have not seen in much questions, but you never know, they may ask. So you have to concentrate in this part also, to define or to identify or to interpret the particular climax community. Three theories have been put forward. One is monoclimax theory, another one is polyclimax theory, and the next one is climax pattern theory. പേര് പഠിക്കാൻ ഈസിയാണ്. You should not feel like what is this, it's like monoclimax, only one climax. Polyclimax, one climax, true climax is it. Poly means many, isn't it? So many, I will come to that term description. So next is polyclimax, and next is climax pattern theory. There is a pattern they are saying. So this is all about theories. So what is monoclimax theory? According to monoclimax theory by Clemens, നേരത്തെ climax community term term is coined by Clemens, we have already told. So monoclimax theory is also put forward by Clemens. According to him, what is the climate is the only factor. Okay, this is the important point. Climate is the only factor determining the climax community. Appo polyclimax il endayirikkum, there will be a number of factors. അല്ലെ, ഇവിടെ ക്ലൈമറ്റ് മാത്രമാണെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ ക്ലൈമറ്റും plus soil, then plus fire, or so many things are there. Okay, so monoclimax theory, climate is the only determining factor, and according to him there is only one climax, true climax community possible in a particular climate. ഒരു particular climate ൽ ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇത് എക്സാമ്പിൾ ആണ്, this is not actually happening. Okay, so ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ we can just say നല്ല തണുള്ള ഏരിയ. So in higher what you say mountain or Himalayan areas, and we are saying that pine, we are saying that pine is the true climax. According to Clemens, in that particular climate only true climax community possible is pine. അങ്ങനെയാണ് പറയുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ sometimes what happens, there are some other conifers also, they can be dominating and they can act as a climax community. Okay, ചെറിയ ചെറിയ ചേഞ്ചസ് ഉണ്ട്, അവിടെ പൈൻ ട്രീസ് ഇല്ല, ആ ഏരിയയിൽ other conifer is getting established and they are sustaining. So that is called that kind of things can happen here. Here since it is having so many loopholes, so many problems in that monoclimax theory, some what you say, some additions has been done. That is, they have named pre and post climax species. What is pre and post? If pine is the true climax, then pre-climax, just before that, whatever climax community is established there, that is known as pre-climax. That is life forms lower than that true climax. A true climax nu nammal parayna climatic ഏത് സ്പീഷീസ് ആണോ ആ സ്പീഷീസിനേക്കാളും ലെസ് കോംപ്ലെക്സ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഓർ ലെസ് ലോവർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു സ്പീഷീസ് ആണ് അവിടെ എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ്ഡ് ആവുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് കോൾഡ് പ്രീ ക്ലൈമാക്സ്. പോസ്റ്റ് ആവുമ്പോൾ എന്തായിരിക്കും, നമ്മൾ ട്രൂ ക്ലൈമാക്സ് എക്സ്പെക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു സ്പീഷീസ് ഉണ്ട് അല്ലെ, പൈനാണ് നമ്മൾ അവിടെ എക്സ്പെക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അതിലും കോംപ്ലെക്സ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള അതിലും ഹയർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഏതെങ്കിലും സ്പീഷീസ് ആണ് അവിടെ ആക്ച്വലി happen ചെയ്യുന്നത്, ആക്ച്വലി ക്ലൈമാക്സ് ആവുന്നത്. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് കോൾഡ് പോസ്റ്റ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ്. സോ പ്രീ ആൻഡ് പോസ്റ്റ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ്. ഓക്കെ, ആൻഡ് അഗെയിൻ സബ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ് ഇസ്, സബ് മീൻസ് ഡൗൺ അല്ലെ, ഒന്ന് താഴെ, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് സബ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ്. സോ വാട്ട് ഈസ് സബ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ്? ദി ആക്ച്വൽ we expecting one climax and the community just before that climatic community, or what we expect once preceding stage, that is known as sub climax. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ പൈനാണ് എക്സ്പെക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ആ പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ക്ലൈമറ്റില്, അപ്പോൾ അതിലും തൊട്ട് താഴെയുള്ള സക്സഷൻ എന്താണോ അവിടെ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് ആ സക്സഷനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ സബ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സബ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ് സ്റ്റേജ് ഇസ് ദി സ്റ്റേജ് ഓഫ് സക്സഷൻ ജസ്റ്റ് പ്രിസീഡിങ്. പ്രിസീഡിങ് മീൻസ് വൺ ലെസ് അല്ലെ, സക്സീഡിങ് മീൻസ് അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് വരുന്നത്. സോ ഇപ്പോ ക്ലൈമാക്സ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി നമ്മൾ പൈൻ എക്സ്പെക്ട് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. വാട്ട് ഈസ് നൗ ഹാപ്പനിങ് ഈസ് സബ് ക്ലൈമാക്സ്. So after some time it will establish as pine. Okay, so that is sub climax. And there is disclimax. What is disclimax? if human interference is there, then it is called disclimax. That is a community which is disturbed by ഹ്യൂമൻസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഹ്യൂമൻ ഡൊമസ്റ്റിക് ആനിമൽസ്. അതായത് ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മളുടെ ഏരിയയിൽ ഡിസ്ക്ലൈമാക്സിനെ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഇൻ ആർ ഏരിയ if we are expecting an area with like lot of grasses, small plants, and then some trees, so trees are the dominant species and that community is surviving over there. Okay, so after some time what we are going to do is that humans interference is happening, we are cutting all the trees. Then we are allowing the animals like our domestic animals to graze over there. So we due to human interference or human disturbance, the community which is dominated by the trees are completely changed into അതായിരുന്നു എക്സ്പെക്റ്റഡ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നോൺ ക്ലൈമാക്സ് അവിടുത്തെ ക്ലൈമാറ്റിക് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി. അതിനെ ഹ്യൂമൻസ് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്തിട്ട് വേറൊരു ക്ലൈമാറ്റിക് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിലേക്ക് മാറ്റി, where it is dominated by the grazing animals. So that kind of changes is known as due to human disturbance, which is caused by human disturbance is known as disclimax. Okay, pre and post climax, subclimax, and then this is disclimax. So these are different parts of monoclimatic theory. Monoclimax theory, climate is the determining factor. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next, polyclimax. Polyclimax theory, it's put forward by Tansley. Poly means many. So what are the determining factors here? It will be either climate, or will be soil, or will be fire, or will be topography, animals, whatever it is. Okay, so these are the determining factor over here. Mattele climate matre undayallu, here these are the factors. So this also is divided. Climatic means what will be the determining factor? Climate. It's very clear. Edaphic. What is edaphic? Edaphic features means soil features. You might have read edaphic, known as term related to soil is known as edaphic. So edaphic climax, what it is determined by what? Soil conditions, like either moisture or the amount of nutrients, all these things. If the climax community is determined by this soil moisture or nutrients or soil related factors, it is known as edaphic climax. Okay, if it is determined by repeated fire, a community is getting established by repeated fire, then it is known as fire climax. So these are different polyclimax theory, different parts of polyclimax theory. So that ultimately what they are going to say is that their monoclimax, only one climate was determining. Here determining factors are more than climate, soil or topography, fire, animals, all these comes. Okay, but actually according to Whittaker, or according to the new scientific interventions, what we are seeing is that, as we told, community is always changing. There is a pattern of changes happening, changes happening in a continuous manner according to the changes in the pattern of what? Climate or soil or wind or weather, whatever it is, with the changes in pattern of all these things. ഇവരുടെയൊക്കെ ചേഞ്ചിന്റെ പാറ്റേൺ അനുസരിച്ച് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയും കണ്ടിന്യൂസ് ആയിട്ട് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു. The community, climax community is continuously changing with the pattern of changes in climate, soil, wind, and other factors. This is known as climax pattern theory. അപ്പോൾ പേരിന്ന് തന്നെ അത് ഈസി ആയിട്ട് you can describe. Okay, so that is climax pattern theory, which is put forward by Whittaker. Monoclimax, polyclimax, climax pattern. Shall I go to the next? Okay, so as this is important, okay, there are three models have been put forward to explain the ecological succession. നമ്മൾ mechanism of succession പറഞ്ഞു അല്ലേ? ഇനി മൂന്ന് models they have put forward 3 models to explain the ecological succession. What are these 3 models? Facilitation model, next is tolerance model, next is inhibition model. Okay, names clear? Facilitation, tolerance and inhibition. Facilitation, what is facilitation? Facilitation means you are going to improve അല്ലേ? Facilitate ചെയ്യുക, improve ചെയ്യുക. അപ്പോൾ ഓരോ സ്പീഷീസും pioneer species, starting from the pioneer species, each species is facilitating the growth of other species. മനസ്സിലായോ? അതായത് ഈ പ്ലസ് സൈൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, this plus sign is for facilitation. So this is the pioneer species. You agree, na? This is pioneer species, isn't it? So this pioneer species is somehow modifying the soil or somehow modifying the environment around it. Okay, they are making soil more suitable for the inversion of the other species. ബാക്കി ബി സ്പീഷീസിന് ഇവിടേക്ക് ഇൻവൈഡ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട്, അവർക്ക് മൈഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് വരാനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ കണ്ടീഷൻസ് in the soil they are prepared by A, that is pioneer species. In this step you can see plus everywhere. Okay, so every stage, serial stage, or every community, pioneer community and serial communities also, they are facilitating the improving the conditions in the soil or surrounding to it, so that other അല്ലെങ്കിൽ next succession community can easily stay there. Okay, അവർക്ക് favorable ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു condition ഉണ്ടാക്കി കൊടുക്കും. So once then what will happen if B is coming invading here, the conditions are improved by A. So slowly A cannot, either by competition or by the changes in the environment, A cannot survive there. So slowly A will get eliminated. Okay, so B is established over there. Then B is again facilitating or improving the conditions. So what will happen? Finally C will come. So next species or next community will get established, slowly eliminating B. Okay, so this is happening in the facilitation model, and this picture is very important because this picture they have shown in some question paper, and we have to say like which is 3 pictures are there for these 3 models. Okay, so that pictures you have to just keep in mind, and if you remember the picture you can explain also. So in Alaska itself, if you see alder plants, when initially the succession will be ending with climax community of alder എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ species ആണ് climax community ആയിട്ട് അവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവും. So that will ultimately change the conditions over there. Okay, then what will happen? Next poplar or willow, these kind of plants will get established. So all stages, serial stages, all the species are improving, facilitating the entry of the other species. That's facilitation model. Okay, so next one is tolerance model. So it will be based on what? Tolerance. So if you are tolerant, you can survive. That is the theory in tolerance model. So pioneer species, they are not at all doing anything. They are there. Okay, at any stage any species can come and invade. Pioneer species are nor inhibiting nor facilitating the succession of the next stage. Okay, if a B, A already it is there, they are not doing anything. They are not going to facilitate B, they are not going to inhibit B. B will come at any point. Okay, next species can come to that community at any point. So when they come to the community, if they are tolerant enough, they can survive over there. If they are not tolerant to the conditions prevailing there, and if they are not tolerant, they cannot compete with A, the B will get eliminated. Otherwise they will remain there. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ C വരും. New species again, anytime new species can come. That species will enter and then the species will remain there. They will compete with A and B, and they will, if they are tolerant enough, they can survive. Otherwise, they will get eliminated. Likewise, many species will come. Okay, പല സ്പീഷീസ് പല ടൈമിലായിട്ട് വരും. അവരവിടെ കോമ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. അവരുടേതായ എക്കോളജിക്കൽ നിഷ്, അവരുടേതായ ഒരു സ്പേസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് അവരവിടെ കോമ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. ഇഫ് ദേ ആർ ടോളറന്റ് ഇനഫ്, ദേ ക്യാൻ സർവൈവ്. അതർവൈസ് ദേ വിൽ ഗെറ്റ് eliminated. So this picture also you have to remember. As I told you, in the case of big plants will make shade and they will eliminate smaller plants. As I told you, if they are tolerant enough, if they that much little bit light is enough, they will survive. Otherwise, they are intolerant, they will removed from the place. So that is tolerance model. Okay, no facilitation, no inhibition. So as I told, no inhibition. There are third model is all about inhibition. What is inhibition model? The pioneer species, that is here the pioneer species is A, isn't it? This pioneer species is somehow inhibiting the other species to enter. They are not allowing any species to enter there. If any species is entering there, B, C, D, any species can enter, but they until their A is replaced by competition or predation or any other disturbance in the climate, that until that time A will be the pioneer species and they will remain as such. Okay, they will not entertain any of these other species to enter to that particular community. So that is inhibition model. This inhibition model, there in the case of some plants, okay, chela plants, even in the case of rice also this is happening. They will produce some allelochemicals. What is this allelochemicals? Roots innum stem innum some chemicals are released into the soil. These chemicals are inhibiting the growth of other plants over there. Okay, appo allelochemicals, the ella plants in them ella inhibition ingane നടക്കുന്നത്. Okay, inhibition can happen by competition, predation, അങ്ങനെ എന്ത് വച്ചിട്ടാണെങ്കിലും അവർ എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്തിട്ട് they will inhibit. Somehow they will inhibit the entry of other species. That is inhibition model. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു method, there is some chemicals called allelochemicals which are released from the roots or stem of some of these plants that will inhibit the growth of other plants next to them. അപ്പോൾ വേറെ പ്ലാന്റ്സിനൊന്നും ആ ഏരിയയിൽ ഗ്രോ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ഇൻഹിബിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ they can compete, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ they can do predation. So the succession is not happening in a orderly manner. എനെ ആർക്കാണ് കോമ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് തോൽപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്? ബിക്കാണോ, ഡിക്കാണോ, സിക്കാണോ? ഏത് സ്പീഷീസ് വന്നാലും അവർ ഇൻഹിബിറ്റ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കും. Those who can replace them will sustain there. So ഇനിയിപ്പോ ബി റീപ്ലേസ് ചെയ്തു എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കും, then another species who can replace B, അത് വരുന്നത് വരെ, until unless another species is coming, that time until that time B will be the species over there, dominant species over there. So B will also inhibit all others. Okay, so this is inhibition model. Somehow they are inhibiting. So in the case of bryosovens, if bryosovens are the pioneer species in some conditions, there they will not allow sponges or tunicates, that kind of species, to get established. Somehow they are inhibiting them. So these are the inhibition model. This picture also you have to remember. Okay, so this is all about ecological succession. പിന്നെ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞത്? We have told what is a community, we have told. Okay, then we told what is community ecology. എന്താണ് community ecology എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു? Then we started with dominant and keystone species. Okay, do you remember dominant and keystone species? Okay, just try to memorize. Okay, then dominant and keystone species. Then we started with ecological succession. Succession le nammal first paranju hierarch, xerarch, then primary, secondary, cyclic paranju. Then we have told autogenic, allogenic, isn't it? Then autotrophic, heterotrophic. Okay, then what we have told, progressive, retrogressive. These are different types. Then we discussed that mechanism of succession. What was mechanism of succession? Nudation, then migration or inversion, then what will happen? Excess, aggregation, competition, reaction, and stabilization. That also we have discussed. Then 3 theories and 3 models. Okay. So I hope you are clear with all these facts. This is very simple. You go and read today. You will get, and we will see some questions as I told you. Okay. So the first statement. So anybody wants to unmute yourself and read and answer this? Who wants to answer this? Nobody is there. Nobody is willing. Okay, so we'll just go through this. We'll see. Okay, answer. What will be the answer? Which of the following statement is correct about the tolerance model? Tolerance model, if they are tolerant enough, they will. Yes. Who is this? Yes, these are some questions. Anybody wants to? Who has already unmute yourself? Okay, Maria. Maria. You can read.
Yeah, which of the following statement is correct about the tolerance model? All species in the succession are capable of establishing on a newly disturbed site.
Correct or what, Maria? No, stop. Correct or what? Is it correct statement? Tolerance. That picture you remember? Any time, any species can come and establish. There is no need of pioneer species.
Yes.
So first statement is correct. Any time, any species can come and establish. Second, what is second statement? Second, Q. What is Q?
Early occupants of this. The early occupants do not change.
Correct or what?
That is also right. The tolerance.
It is also right. Because they are not doing facilitation, not doing inhibition.
Inhibition.
So P and Q is correct. Then next, third. What is third?
Facilitation model.
First, third one is facilitation model. And fourth, what is this?
Facilitation model. That is also the tolerance model.
Correct. So P, Q, and S. The option C is the answer. Isn't it? Okay. Next one, anyone else want to try, or Maria will also do? Maria will only do. You only read. Time is like, we don't have much time left. So Maria.
Which of the following?
Correct sequence.
Which of the following is correct sequence about professional process?
You don't have to read the option. You can you say the points like stages, sequence? Nudation. Then what was?
Nudation, invasion, excesses, aggregation, competition, reaction,
stabilization.
C.
Very good. Okay, that's all. So option will be C.
C.
When you get time, you just see that. Okay. Now third one. Of the following is the factor between distinction factor between primary and secondary. Primary and secondary, what was that? Length of time necessary for recovery, but length of time is same for all. Primary succession, soil is not there, so they have to make soil suitable substrate. So it takes lot of time. So the time is not same for primary and secondary. Secondary ki already soil in there, so it takes less time. So the length of time is necessary for recovery. It's not correct. Both of them takes different time durations. Okay. Second, B. Secondary succession involves human disturbance or intervention. Adano secondary succession. Secondary succession
No.
flood, fire, or that kind of thing. In the secondary succession, there are remnants of previous biological community. Is it correct or what?
Correct.
Yes,
Yes, correct.
isn't it? Previous biological community
Yes.
existing ആയിരുന്നു, അത് destroyed ആയതാണ്. So they will be easily established. So C is the correct option. Primary succession characterized by low genetic diversity. Only one will be the correct answer here. So that is C. Okay. Otherwise also low genetic diversity എന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല. A lot of individuals that can act as a pioneer community in primary succession. Okay. So these kind of questions you will get. Very simple questions, okay, but you should know the concept clearly. So go and if possible read today itself, make your concept very clear. Okay, you have any doubt you can ask or we will discuss in the other class. So already it's 8:15. So I know Maria, thank you for reading all the questions. Okay. Okay then. See, I know
Thank you.
a lot of new students over here for a demo and this just to want to hear the class. Okay, so this is how we usually take the classes. So other teachers are also there. They will be sometimes in between the classes. They will ask the questions. They will put in each session, each point when they are making it clear. That time itself they'll put the questions which earlier it is seen in the earlier question papers. Okay, so that kind with questions we are describing all the portions. That is what we are planning to do, and we have covered almost 1 week's classes over now. That is okay. If you anybody wants to join, you can also join, doesn't matter. We'll take all those classes for you in between, like Saturdays or somewhere Sundays sometime we will take those classes. Okay, that is not an issue, but this is how basically I think you have to study for CSIR. Read the questions, make your concepts clear, and then try to answer it. Okay, so any new students who are here for demo or something, you want to ask anything about the classes, you can ask now. You can unmute yourself and you can ask. Nobody is there, no doubts.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
എന്താ ചില നമ്മുടെ ക്ലാസ് 8 to 9 മീൻസ് 7 to 8 അതിനുശേഷം പിന്നെയും ഉണ്ടാവോന്ന് അറിയാനാണ്.
7 to 8 അല്ല, ബേസിക്കലി ഞങ്ങൾ 1.5 മണിക്കൂർ 7 to 8:30 ആണ് വെച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. പക്ഷെ ലാസ്റ്റ് ക്ലാസ്സസ് ഒക്കെ 8 o'clock ഞങ്ങൾ വൈൻഡ് അപ്പ് ചെയ്തു ചില ക്ലാസ്സസ്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ലൈക്ക് ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മളിപ്പോ എക്കോളജിക്കൽ സക്സഷൻ ഫുൾ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ടൈം എടുക്കുന്നത്. അതല്ലാതെ 8:30 അത് നിങ്ങൾക്കും ബോറായിരിക്കും. വൈൻഡ് അപ്പ് ദേർ. ടൈമിംഗ്.
ഹലോ മാം.
യെസ്
മാം, ഇതിപ്പം ഓൾറെഡി 1 വീക്കിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് കഴിഞ്ഞില്ലേ? സോ ഇനിയിപ്പം അഗൈൻ അടുത്തൊരു ബാച്ച് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടാവോ? ലൈക്ക് ഹൗ ക്യാൻ വി കണ്ടിന്യൂ?
സെക്കൻഡ് ബാച്ച് ഓൾറെഡി Unibiosys have announced. So next batch 30th or 31st. By that time we can start. അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങളും കൂടെ ഈ ബാച്ചിലായിരിക്കും, ഒരുമിച്ചായിരിക്കും ക്ലാസ്സസ് തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. ഇത്ര ടൈം ആയിട്ടില്ലല്ലോ. അപ്പൊ ഈ 1 വീക്കിലെ ക്ലാസ് വി വിൽ കോമ്പൻസേറ്റ് സംഹൗ, ലൈക്ക് സാറ്റർഡേസ് സൺഡേസ് അങ്ങനെ എപ്പോഴെങ്കിലും നമുക്ക് ഈ 1 വീക്ക് കോപ്പപ്പ് ചെയ്യാം. ഇപ്പൊ ബേസിക്കലി എക്കോളജിയിൽ യു ഹാവ് മിസ്ഡ് ഓൺലി 1 ക്ലാസ്. പിന്നെ ഐ തിങ്ക് ഇൻ നൈട്രജൻ മെറ്റബോളിസം 2 or 3 classes like plant hormones and all. So likewise this thing also, cell signaling also 3 classes. So that we can cope up. That is not an issue. That we will somehow manage. Okay, that is not a problem.
Okay ma'am. So study material ആയിട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ PPT അല്ല എന്താ കിട്ടുക? ഐ മീൻ അങ്ങനെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ ഈ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ?
ബേസിക്കലി ഞങ്ങൾ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചത് പ്രിന്റഡ് നോട്ട്സ് കൊടുക്കണം എന്നാണ്. അപ്പൊ പ്രിന്റഡ് നോട്ട്സ് കൊടുക്കാൻ തന്നെയാണ്. അപ്പൊ ഇപ്പൊ പ്രിന്റഡ് നോട്ട്സിന്റെ കേസിൽ ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ ഈ കൊറോണ പ്രിവെയിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇത് പ്രിന്റ് ആയിട്ട് നിങ്ങളുടെ അടുത്ത് എത്തിക്കുക എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഡൗട്ട് ഇപ്പോഴും എക്സിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അത് ഞങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോഴും ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. വി വാണ്ട് ടു, പക്ഷെ ഈ പ്രിന്റഡ് നോട്ട്സിനേക്കാളും ഇപ്പൊ എല്ലാ ദിവസവും, അതായത് ക്ലാസ്സസ് കഴിഞ്ഞാല് അന്ന് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഡേ ആയിട്ട്, ഇപ്പൊ ലാസ്റ്റ് വീക്കിലെ എല്ലാ ക്ലാസ്സസിന്റെ എല്ലാ നോട്ട്സും ഗൂഗിൾ ക്ലാസ് റൂമില് അപ്ലോഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് നോട്ട്സ്. അത് കൂടാതെ സാറ്റർഡേസ് സൺഡേസ് ആയിട്ട് എല്ലാ സൺഡേസും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഒരു 15-20, I think nitrogen metabolism Dr. Tanzim is handling. She has given 40 questions, I think. So Aparna is handling cell signaling, all those parts. She has also given ഒരു 15 to 20 questions ഞാനും കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് നമ്മൾ സൺഡേസ് കൊടുക്കും. അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾ ആ കൺസെപ്റ്റ് ക്ലിയർ ചെയ്ത് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ആൻസർ ചെയ്ത് എല്ലാ സൺഡേസും ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യും. പിന്നെ ബാക്കി നോട്ട്സ് ഒക്കെ ഓൾറെഡി ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഇൻ ഗൂഗിൾ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം, ഗൂഗിൾ ക്ലാസ് റൂമിൽ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതല്ലാതെ ഇനി പ്രിന്റഡ് നിർബന്ധമാണെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്രാവശ്യം നോക്കുള്ളൂ. ഈ പ്രിവൈലിംഗ് കണ്ടീഷനിൽ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു ഡിസ്റ്റർബൻസ് കാണുന്നുണ്ട്. ഹൗ ടു പ്രിന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഹൗ ടു മേക്ക് ഇറ്റ് റീച്ച് ടു യു ആസ് സൂൺ ആസ് പോസിബിൾ, അതാണ് ഇവിടുത്തെ ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം. അത് നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. അപ്പൊ ജനറലി ഇപ്പൊ നോട്ട്സ് പഠിക്കാനായിട്ട് ആഫ്റ്റർ ദ ക്ലാസ് യു വിൽ ഗെറ്റ് ഓൾ ദ നോട്ട്സ് ഇൻ ഗൂഗിൾ ക്ലാസ് റൂം. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ക്ലാസ് റൂം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ട് എല്ലാ നോട്ട്സും ഉണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, സോ
okay ma'am. Thank you ma'am.
okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? If you don't have any questions, then we will wind up. Otherwise, I think 5 or 10 minutes, 5 minutes time is there.
ശ്രീജ മാം,
Yes.
ഒരു ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ട്. അതായത് നമ്മുടെ ഈ മൈക്രോ ഓർഗാനിസംസ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടല്ലോ,
Yes.
അതിപ്പം ഈ ഡീകമ്പോസേഴ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അല്ലാതെ മറ്റു മൈക്രോ ഓർഗാനിസംസ്, അപ്പൊ അതൊക്കെ നമ്മുടെ ഈ പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി വരുന്നതാണോ?
അല്ല,
സക്സഷന്റെ കേസിൽ
കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിൽ വരാം. എവിടെയാണ് പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിൽ വരുന്നത്? സീവേജില്. സീവേജിന്റെ ഒരു ഏരിയയില് വേറൊരു സാധനത്തിനും സർവൈവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല, ഒരു ഓർഗാനിസത്തിനും സർവൈവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ബിക്കോസ് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഹൈലി പൊല്യൂട്ടഡ് ആൻഡ് ദാറ്റ് ഡിസോൾഡ് മറ്റേ ഓക്സിജൻ ലെവൽ ഇസ് ടു ലോ അല്ലെ. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു കണ്ടീഷനിൽ വേറെ ഒരു ഓർഗാനിസത്തിനും സർവൈവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അവിടെ പൈനിയർ അപ്പൊ ആരായിട്ടാ വരിക? ഈ മൈക്രോബ്സ് ആയിരിക്കും. They will create an environment. They will slowly increase the oxygen level in that water. അങ്ങനെ ഓക്സിജൻ ലെവലൊക്കെ കൂട്ടിയിട്ട് ബാക്കി മൈക്രോബ്സിന് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ബാക്കി ഓർഗാനിസത്തിന് അവിടേക്ക് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ലെവലിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരും. അപ്പൊ അവിടെ പയനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇവരാണ്, മൈക്രോബ്സ് ആണ്. ഓക്കെ, മനസ്സിലായോ? ആർ യു ക്ലിയർ?
പൈനിയർ സ്പീഷീസും പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി രണ്ട് കൺസെപ്റ്റാ?
അല്ല, പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് ഇല്ല, കൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഒന്ന് തന്നെയാണ്. പൈനിയർ സ്പീഷീസ് ഒരു ഏരിയയിൽ എക്സിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അതിന് പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എന്ന് പറയുന്നേ ഉള്ളൂ. മനസ്സിലായോ?
സോറി, ഞാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ച പ്രൈമറി സ്പീഷീസും പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എനിക്ക് മാറിപ്പോയി.
പ്രൈമറി സ്പീഷീസാ പൈനിയർ സ്പീഷീസും പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയും, അതല്ലേ?
അതിപ്പം ഈ പ്രൈമറി സക്സഷനകത്ത് ഈ എന്താ റോക്സ് ഒക്കെ ഡിഗ്രേഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ മൈക്രോബ്സ് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, അപ്പൊ അത് അവിടെ പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ആയിട്ട് എടുക്കത്തില്ല?
അത് പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയാണ്. അവിടുത്തെ പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി അവരാണ്. ലൈക്കൻസും മോസസും മൈക്രോബ്സ് അവരാരാണ് അവിടെ സ്റ്റെബിലൈസ് ചെയ്ത് വരുന്നത് ആ റോക്കിന്റെ കണ്ടീഷനിൽ, അവരാണ് അവിടുത്തെ പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി. ഓക്കെ, പ്രൈമറിയുടെ വേറെ ഒന്നുമില്ലാത്ത ഒരു ഏരിയയിൽ ആദ്യമായി തുടങ്ങുന്ന സക്സഷൻ, അതാണ് പ്രൈമറി. ആ ഏരിയയിൽ ഇപ്പൊ എക്സാമ്പിൾ പറഞ്ഞ റോക്കി ഏരിയ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അലാസ്കയിലെ ആ പെട്ടെന്ന് ഗ്ലേസിയർ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എക്സ്പോസ് ആവുന്ന പാർട്ട്, അവിടെ ഒന്നുമില്ല, സോയിൽ ഇല്ല. അപ്പൊ അവിടുത്തെ പൈനിയർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി, ആദ്യമായി വരുന്ന കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ഈസ് മൈക്രോബ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ലൈക്കൻസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മോസസ്, ഇങ്ങനെ ഏതെങ്കിലും ആയിരിക്കും. ദാറ്റ് ക്യാൻ മോഡിഫൈ ദാറ്റ് റോക്ക് ഇൻ ടു ന്യൂട്രിയൻ റിച്ച് സോയിൽ. അതാണ് പൈനിയർ. അവിടുത്തെ പൈനിയർ ആണ് ഇവര്. ഓക്കെ, ഓക്കെ. സോ Anyone else? So shall we wind up the class then?
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, 30th ആണ് സെക്കൻഡ് ബാച്ച് തുടങ്ങണ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ. സോ എപ്പോഴാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ലാസ്റ്റ് ഡേറ്റ് ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ?
ലാസ്റ്റ് ഡേറ്റ് ഇപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾ യൂണിബയോസിസിനെ കോണ്ടാക്ട് ചെയ്തോളൂ. യൂണിബയോസിന്റെ മെയിൽ ഐ ഡി ഇല്ലേ?
ഉണ്ട്.
ഓക്കെ. അപ്പൊ യൂണിബയോസിന് ഇപ്പൊ എപ്പോഴാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ യു ക്യാൻ കോണ്ടാക്ട് ദം. 30th അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 31st. 30th ആണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു എനിക്ക്. 30th or 31st ക്ലാസ്സസ് വിൽ സ്റ്റാർട്ട്. ഓക്കെ, സോ വി വിൽ ക്ലബ് ടു. അപ്പൊ അതിനു മുമ്പ് നിങ്ങളെ കോണ്ടാക്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ട് വേഗം ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യാം. ഓക്കെ,
റൈറ്റ് മാം. ഓക്കെ മാം, താങ്ക് യു മാം.
ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു. So I think we will wind up. It's already 8:30 and okay, so thank you. We'll meet you in the next class. Okay, tomorrow there is a class. We'll see tomorrow 7 o'clock. Okay then, thank you all. Stay safe, take care. Okay, who is this? Binish sir, no? Sir, your voice. Sir, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you, sir. Your voice is breaking.
And chat box. Sorry, I cannot hear the sir. Okay, then we will wind up over here. Oh. Anything anybody want to add? Okay, then we'll stop here for today's class. We'll meet you tomorrow. Okay then. Bye bye.
Excuse me.
Yes, Aparna. Yes, Aparna.
Tomorrow's class will be Tanzim's class, ma'am.
Okay.
So you just inform it.
Okay. So I think she will be handling plant hormones. So tomorrow's
plant hormone continuation.
Okay. So tomorrow Tanzim's class will be there. Okay. So meet you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. You all take care. If possible, read the portions today itself. So okay, bye. Thank you.